Good morning. I had an interesting thing happen last night. Dan and I and Loretta went to a wedding. It's the teacher, one of those teachers that Loretta has that works with her, and she's getting married. It's such a beautiful bride and a beautiful evening. And Loretta was not quite the star, but was the bride, but everybody seemed to know her. And what happened on our way home? As we drove into the garage, getting ready to go into the garage, a bird started flying back and forth at the end of the garage. And I told Dad, I said, one of the lovebirds got out the keys, and I was trying to get into the garage and shut the door real quick so it would fly away. And Loretta saw it, and we got into the garage. The lovebirds were in their cage. A parrot was in his cage, and the bird was gone. So this morning, we got up and we were looking for that bird. The bird wasn't there. It came to me. The Holy Spirit was giving me a message for today's message. So with that, I feel empowered that that presence was there. So the talk, as you know, do you have enough faith to feed 5,000 people? Well, maybe with Joanne and Dan and all these great cooks we have around here, I'm not quite sure. Let me start with a story. And then was on a much deserved mission assignment to the Apache Indians in Arizona. And she was so excited that she drove right past the gas station without noticing that she needed gas. So what happens, of course, about a mile away from the station, she ran out of gas. And she had to walk back to the station. And the attendant told her that, well, I'd love to help you, but I don't have a container. Do you have something that put gas in? And she said, no, I don't have anything. He said, well, sympathetic replied, he agreed to search through all the stuff in the back of there to see if he might find something that might work. And unfortunately, the only container that would hold fluid was an old bedpan. Well, the grateful nun said, that bedpan worked just fine. So she carried the gasoline back to her car, taking care not to drop an ounce. When she got to the car, she carefully poured the contents into the gasoline spigot. And about that time, a truck driver pulled alongside the car as the nun was emptying the container into the tank. And he rolled in his window and yelled to her, I wish I had your faith, sister. I wish I had that faith too. In Christianity, feeding the multitudes on two separate miracles of Jesus is recorded in the Gospels. The first miracle, the feeding of 5,000, is the only miracle that's recorded in all four Gospels. So it's in Matthew 14, Mark 6, Luke 9, which we heard today, and John 6. Now the second miracle on feeding, the feeding of the 4,000 with 7 loaves of bread and a few small fish, is reported only in Matthew's and Mark, but not in Luke and John. So aside from the resurrection, the feeding of the 5,000 is the only miracle that appeared in all of the Gospels. So I think the early writers wanted to ensure that we know how important this story is. Is there a tissue there? Right. Yeah, the power being connected up. I guess that's the Holy Spirit. John the Baptist was engaged, as you know, in his mission of boldly telling people about God and the path to follow. How unfortunately, though, some people living in sin became upset with John because of his message, and then we know who that was. So as a result, King Herod, who was living in sin, and his daughter all that story, one of John's dead. And so he ordered beheading John. So when Jesus heard of John's beheading, he and his disciples were sad. And of course, Jesus took all the disciples in a boat, and they were going to go to a quiet place and rest and kind of grieve and get over this loss. So when people heard, though, that Jesus was leading, the crowds followed him, and others came from their homes and villages. And they wanted to be with Jesus too. They thirsted to listen to his words and wanted to witness more miracles. It was feasible that Jesus might refuse to educate the crowd. After all, he and his disciples had boarded the boat to escape the crowds and rest for a while. However, when we read in Mark 6:34 again, when Jesus came ashore, he observed the great multitudes. He was worried about them. They were like a flock of sheep without a keeper. And as a result, he began to teach them numerous things. Jesus loved every single individual in that crowd. Moreover, he understood there was still a lot they did not understand about God's kingdom. Even though he wanted to rest, he prioritized the crowd's needs and taught them. According to the Bible, the group was like the sheep without a shepherd, suggesting that people were lost and confused about life. Jesus, as we know, was a kind and loving shepherd who cared for them by teaching them. In John 10:14-15, Jesus said, I know my sheep know me. I know me just as Father, and I know the Father. However, moreover, I give up my life for the sheep. So when he felt lost and confused like the crowd was, our God, our good shepherd, will gently lead us to where we need to go and teach us what we need to know. Now, by the time Jesus and his disciples arrived, it was late in the day, and as I mentioned, Jesus looked over the crowd and said to Philip, where can we buy food for these people to eat? Asked Philip. That's in John 5. As it became dark outside, a few disciples requested that Jesus send everyone away, send them all away, so the people could go into the towns and the village and buy food. However, Jesus stated that they were not required to leave. You will give them something to eat, Jesus said in Matthew 14. Philip and the other disciples were shown that they could not solve the situation independently. There was no store nearby where they could get that much food. Even if they had been, it would have cost far more money than the disciples had. And Jesus wanted the disciples to have in him. To know that he was the only one who could supply their needs. And Jesus said to them, I am the bread of life. He who comes to me shall never hunger, and he who believes in me shall never thirst. John 6:35. Jesus wants us to trust him. He will take care of us. God may allow a situation in our lives that we cannot solve alone. However, the problem we cannot solve is a perfect opportunity to reflect. Some 40 years ago, I struggled to fully be the person God made. The fear of the unknown, denial, anger, anxiety, guilt, sadness, loss of confidence worked against me. I did not seem to have the courage to come out. No matter how much I prayed, I was indecisive. You know what? God helped me through it. Even though there were tough times, having faith keeps me moving forward. Trust that the Lord is able and willing to meet all of your needs. Andrew, the disciple, shared with Jesus that there was a boy with 5 small loaves and a bread and 2 small fish. The young boy was prepared to give him up. It was everything he had. And so the disciples, so the disciples were directed to have the boy bring those 5 loaves and those 2 fish to him. And Jesus then instructed the disciples to have the people to take a seat. Jesus gave thanks for the food. And what happens next is nothing short of a miracle. Jesus broke the bread. He handed it to his disciples, who were to distribute it to everyone. Can you picture in your mind's eye attempting to feed such a large number of people? My basket will run out extremely quickly with all these hungry people to feed. The disciples probably were saying. However, miraculously, they never ran out of food. The disciples returned to Jesus several times to obtain more fish and the bread to feed the large multitudes. In 2 Corinthians 9 says, God will generously provide for all your needs. Then you will always have everything you need and plenty left over to share with others. Everyone got as much food as they wanted. They all ate a lot, and there were 12 baskets of food left over. That's in John 6:11-15. What was left over was gathered by Jesus' disciples. Isn't it remarkable that there were 12 baskets of food left after everyone had eaten until they were satisfied? Nothing should be thrown away, Jesus reminded the disciples. Each of the 12 walked away with a basket full of food. They arrived there depressed and hungry, eager to escape from the crowd, wanting to rest. And God, on the other hand, had a different plan. He came to fill the void, even in this time of challenge for Jesus as a man and loving his friend and cousin. He came to fill the void in their heart. Jesus meets that demand in all of us today, in all of our hearts. Nothing is too insignificant for God to use, including the boy's lunch. Of course, the disciples could not see how a child's lunch could be of assistance. But God's way of providing is to display his might in our weaknesses. 2 Corinthians 12:9-10. We're thankful that Jesus meets all our wants. He satisfies our innermost desires for calm, healing, and intimacy with God. He offers us a taste of joy we can experience when he feeds us his divine love in Holy Communion. Luke 9:16-17. We celebrate the eternal life he grants us as we receive him. The miracle of feeding 5,000 should remind us there is no problem too big for God to help us with. So what about your faith? Would you have had faith that Jesus could feed 5,000 people? Do you keep your right thoughts in your mind? Are you waiting for God to lay his hands on you? Your reach out can open the door to God's intervention. Be faithful. Live with anticipation that something good is going to happen in your life. Can your faith be seen? You talk, believe, or act that something great will happen in your life? You must show God you're ready for Him to make a difference in your life. What you do, what you believe, and it does happen. What if you think and it does happen? It's impossible to believe in God without faith. Are you waiting for God to lay hands on you? Maybe He's waiting on you. Waiting on you. Look for God's goodness now. Live in the moment. Live now. Don't live in the past. Don't live in the future. Live now. When God sees you working to change your life, have faith and take steps to improve your life. He will be there to support you, to do what you could not do on your own. When you stay in faith and consistently thank God, He will do things that will turn your head. Stay encouraged. It will happen sooner than you think. Your trust is going to make you whole. God can see your faith. We all feel for ourselves, sorry for ourselves sometimes. Lord knows we have all made mistakes, many for me, and behaved in ways that God wasn't pleased about, or I didn't like about. There's a story of Bartholomew. Remember in Mark 10, 46-52, the blind man? When Jesus told him, when Jesus told him, come here, he threw off his beggar's coat. Because as a matter of custom, blind men and beggars wore certain coats to identify them so that people could take care of their needs. And Jesus healed him. Bartholomew had the faith that Jesus would cure his blindness. You can change your life by taking off the beggar's coat. Get rid of excuses. You cannot make your destiny wear the beggar's coat. Leaving the negative things of the past is going to change your future. Your faith will turn things around. Open the right doors and keep expecting it. Keep looking for goodness. Go out each morning expecting God's goodness. He is passing by, and your faith will make great things happen that would never happen before. God is about to open doors, turn impossible things around, take you in the fullness of your life journey, just like Jesus did when He fed the 5,000. Now we'll listen to Dolly remind us about God only knows.